Welcome to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. I'm your host, Fabian motherfucking Ojeda, and I don't know shit, but that's okay. All right, let's get this shit started. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. Hope you all enjoyed episode number 108 with the guys from the You Hate to See It podcast. I still don't understand what that means, and I don't get what their podcast is all about, but you know what? They're having fun doing it, so all the best to them, and hopefully we'll hear from them again soon at some point. But we're back today with a brand new guest. I want to welcome from, we're always talking to people from the film world or the TV or movies, right? And we have another guest, and we're joining us today for the very first time is Ms. Christy Crandall. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Ready to go. I know I mentioned to you my timing kind of sucks this week, so now I'm back on it. So hopefully we're good to go with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I know we just mentioned here in the little intro that you're in the film world, right? Would you say that you're more like are you in production? Are you an actress? Are you what is your role essentially?
I like production better. I like crew work, production supervisor. I've produced and directed some shorts. I like being behind the camera. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yes, and that's like a different, because everybody I've talked to so far has been like, the one that wants to be the actor, the one that's in front of the camera. I haven't really talked to anybody who prefers behind the camera. When we talk about production, even just the word itself, to me, it's like, well, what is a producer? What does a producer do? I've always wondered that. I'm like, you hear it all the time, right? You know what a director does, but when you hear producer, I'm like, is that the person who just brings in the money, or like, what does that mean?
Well, it's kind of like imagine HR in a corporation, mm-hmm. and being the senior HR and being the one that kind of pulls all the strings together and getting everybody coordinated to do that film. Mm-hmm. Executive producer is kind of the one that deals with the money side of it all and the marketing and all that.
Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned you're a coordinator. You're wrangling everybody in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now with that, I mean, did you start as someone who wanted to act or anything like that? Or you've always kind of like, it's been more your taste to be, again, behind the scenes and everything like that? Did you, like, in high school or anything like that, or maybe as a kid, did you want to act first?
Actually, I wanted to be on the creative side. I did. My dad and my stepmother were both like hugely inspirational for me. They were photographers in the art world. Mm-hmm. And since I was a child, I wanted to kind of do the same thing, but I joined the military. They had me do other things. So by the time I retired from the military, that was my opportunity to kind of jump into it. Now, I started out as a background actress, and that was off a recommendation of a friend of mine. I was living in Savannah, Georgia, and a lot of films go there and do their work there. So I did about 30-something films as a background actress, kind of, the girl in the corner eating the apple. But it was like, I never really aspired to be a full-time actress. Okay. I really wanted to be part of the creative side of it, the one that's capturing all of that. Mm-hmm. So, but just, because I was raised the way I was and the parents that I had, it was just something that I've always loved and wanted to be a part of.
Okay. So they were photographers. And so you really developed a love for like the skill, right? To make the things look great. Right. So you can have the person who's acting it out and is becoming the character, but you wanted to really kind of control the narrative around that. Right. So, what the scenery looks like, what, things like that, right?
Exactly. Yes. That's set dressing, basically, where you go in and you get the set ready and you make everything just perfect so that it doesn't distract from the actress, but at the same time has the right items there.
I got to take notes. I'm learning some new vocabulary. This is set dressing. I'm going to put that in my notes.
Set dressing. Yeah. Yeah. I've done that as well. That's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. And that's just like one of the basic techniques there, or what else would you need to know if you're someone who is like trying to get into the behind the scenes work like you are?
Well, there's so many different roles. I mean, you've got everything from lighting to boom op, which is like the audio, to set dressing, to even like wardrobe and makeup and hair, and everybody has an integral part of that. So it's a matter of getting this crew together and everyone doing what they're supposed to do. And as a post-production or as a production supervisor, which I did in my last role, it was a matter of just kind of getting everybody synchronized and doing their job right when they're supposed to be doing it. And so it comes out and the cinematographer is ready to film.
I imagine that must be difficult. I've managed people, and managed like up to 20 people at one time was the most, right? But you probably got a bunch of people that you've got to, wrangle together and try to get them all on the same page, right? It's probably like in the hundreds, or would you say 100 or so?
No, not on that scale. So, the films I've worked on have been anywhere from like a team of 10 to a team of maybe 35. And, it's the military that taught me a lot about structure and coordination and how to do that. So, you're just leading soldiers. So in that, it was a matter of being like directive towards different people and having people do what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't mention the military. You were in the Army?
I was in the Army. Yes, I was.
Nice. Okay. How long did you serve in the Army?
I was in the Army from the age of 17 to the age of 40.
Ooh, wow.
So that was total 22 years. And my dad actually had to sign a contract to allow me to go in before I was 18 years old, so I can go to basic training. But yeah, I started out as a helicopter mechanic. And after a while, got tired of flying around, decided I wanted to change that, and became an X-ray tech and re-enlisted for X-ray. And then decided I didn't like blood. I didn't like the sight of blood. This wasn't for me. So then I went off to be an officer because I was enlisted before. And I went to college, came back on an ROTC scholarship, and they made me an HR. So I was what's called an AG officer, which is basically human resources. I did that for the last 12 years of my time in.
Wow. And that's actually a really cool, skill set to get in there and then leave with, because HR is like, in demand, like anywhere.
It's true, but it's not necessarily the same on the civilian sector as it is in the military. So like I didn't deal with payroll, for example.
Really?
No, that was the finance guys. There's a whole new branch for that. That's finance. I did mostly, awards and evaluations, like memos for the guys I was working with. I did a lot of casualty duty. That's where, people, when someone would pass away, I would be in charge of notifying the family or taking care of the family for a while after the death. I did a number of those. So that was challenging.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you pretty much, and you have to like learn to deal with grief at that point, and that's like constant. And I'm imagining if you're doing that for a while, it's got to be kind of heartbreaking at some point, but also at the same time, like, I don't know, maybe you become desensitized to a couple things, right?
I never did.
No? Okay.
No, I did, I think, a total of 13 or 14. And every single one of them, I remember every single one of them and how they touched me. And it was just different. It was not something that was easy. It was not something that I could just get over. I couldn't desensitize. I just tried to focus on, and the game face and focus on what I was supposed to do. But you see these families grieving and you feel for them and you can't help that. You see what they go through. The loss of a soldier is a horrible thing. So,
yeah. Well, because you mentioned, I guess Army, because you mentioned Savannah. I remember I drove, all the way home from Savannah one time. I flew out to Savannah. My brother was getting out of the Army, so he wanted to get his car back over to California. So I flew out to Savannah, and Fort Stewart, and drove his car all the way from from there to California. I love Savannah. It's beautiful out there.
Savannah's gorgeous. It's got everything from your like historic district to the beach at Tybee Island. There's just so much to do. It's beautiful. You can walk anywhere. You don't necessarily need a car. And everywhere you turn is just something stunning to look at.
Yeah. I definitely want to go back at some point and check it out, because I remember it was just like a weekend. I'm looking around, I'm like, wow, there's like so much to do. Like it was like a restaurant or a bar everywhere. Like I was like, I want to try all of them, but it's like, no, okay, you can only try a few. You know, like adult Disneyland right there for a bit. But, but yeah, I can see how your position there in the Army, with HR maybe helped you, start to learn to get people pulled together and wrangle them in and learn production and whatnot. And what about, how was that transition in? Did you quickly find your footing and start with, doing the behind the scenes work, or how did that transition work from Army to, producer?
Sure. A lot of my peers, we went through the same sort of thing. When you get out of the Army, you're somebody one day, and then you get out, and after like the whole concept of like, well, I'm on vacation kind of wears off, you suddenly say, well, nobody needs me. It is hard. Unless you go straight into another job, it is hard. And I went through that for a while, and I was always looking for my next calling and what I wanted to do, next in life. And when I found out about background acting, I just kind of jumped right into it. And it was rewarding because you felt like you were important. You were part of something bigger than yourself. And it was a lot of fun. But then to transition into behind the camera, that was difficult. My very first film was called My Brother's Keeper. And I was executive producer on it. But at the same time, when we filmed, I jumped in and did crew work as well. It was just something I wanted to learn, different aspects of the crew work. And I think that was such a rewarding experience that it sold me on just being in film itself. And that one went off to Cannes Film Festival in France, non-competitive, but it went to a bunch of different other film festivals, and it won a Telly Award. It was really just rewarding to watch that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole process of it. I mean, I listened to people before, talk about film and putting it together and everything. I'm like, it's such a process, like the whole thing, like getting so many people on the same, like you said, you're talking to you, getting so many people on the same page, right? And then finally, getting somebody's vision all together. Because I think, everybody kind of has a different vision for it, right? But when you finally see the finished product, it's like, whoa, we did that. We finished that,
Yeah, that's so rewarding. It's exciting, and then you send it out to film festivals or Netflix or whatever avenue you want it to go. And just to sit there and watch that is just, you're awestruck. You're like, I can't believe all of that work, and here it is. Here's the product.
Yeah. So, okay, a lot of us, like, again, we don't know, like, the difference between maybe, unless you're really, really like a big time, like, film fanatic, right? We don't know the difference between, like, okay, what's a good, what's good producing, what's bad producing, what's a well-produced show versus a poorly produced show, right? Is there a way that you can tell just by watching, like, okay, this, the production here sucks, or, maybe they need work on this, or, wow, that's great, that's great behind the scenes stuff?
Yes. Actually, it's funny you asked me that question because, I'm a judge on a film festival.
Okay.
And so what I get to do is I get to watch a ton of films and judge them. So a lot of it is on, production value and how well it was produced, how well it was directed. You can just looking at the quality of the cinematography, you can tell how well this team pulled together or did not. I've been on some sets where it's been very difficult to synchronize everybody. I've been on sets where it was fluid. It was beautiful. So it just kind of depends on if everybody knows their job and if they're seasoned or not,
Right. Now, I asked that because, with so many platforms out there, and it being such a saturated kind of market, really, if people want to get their film out there, they'll get it out there, right? As professional or not as it may be, as poorly or greatly produced as it may be, and sometimes you're even looking at like something on Amazon, for example, Amazon Prime, that was probably filmed with an iPhone, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm like, that's the day we're in now, where you're filming a movie, a whole movie using phones, and I'm like,
hey, I can't knock it though, because some of these products that they turn out with their phone, as long as the lighting's good, are phenomenal.
Huh.
They're phenomenal. I've seen quite a few different films on my judging that I absolutely loved, and they were filmed on an iPhone.
Wow.
Yep. Huh. But a lot of the films, I have a friend who does a lot of his work, and he puts it out through Amazon Prime, and he does it with a DLSR. So it's just like a small camera.
Yeah.
It's not like a Red or anything like that.
Yeah, like a Canon, right, or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, and he does a really good job with his. And he's got a number of films out there. I was a voiceover in one of them called The Tag Conspiracy. I'm the corporate voice.
Yeah, those little DSLR cameras are pretty cool, though. I mean, I have I work in after school programs, right? And I'm like, well, that's the best we're gonna do, because we're not gonna get a big old professional camera for recording, right? DSLRs are pretty versatile,
Yeah, as long as it's really on the creativity of the person that's filming. And the angles they shoot, the lighting is always huge. And then obviously the storyline itself.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of people don't pay attention to what's going on in the background. So they'll film something and then they've got, like a Coke can in the back, and you can't have that. Or they'll have like other people that are jumping in and out and they shouldn't be there. And it's just a matter of paying attention to those sort of things.
Okay. Yeah, so really keep an eye for detail there, right?
Yeah.
That's funny. I mean, have you seen anything like that where you're just like, it's painfully obvious to you, but nobody notices it?
Yes. Yes, I had I'll just say a cinematographer friend that showed me a film he did, and it was horrifying, but he was so proud of it, and I couldn't say anything to him because I was like, oh man. But I just, because my parents taught me to always look for stuff like that, it's just something I'm very particular about, while other people don't even notice it. Yeah.
And it's funny because I imagine, if something's so poorly produced, you're like probably thinking in your head, like, I don't even want to watch this, right? Because I did music for a bit, and even with the podcast, I've had to kind of learn to kind of just if the sound doesn't come out that great this time, just fix it as much as you can. But sometimes you just got to like roll with it, like because I'll release a podcast every week, and if it were up to me, I'd still be editing episode 1, like to make it
this right.
Yeah. But sometimes I'm just like, you just got to let it go. Nobody's going to notice but you. Maybe some snobs, at the top, with who know audio better than you will notice, but they're not listening anyway. But even like with music and stuff, like I used to love just, putting, music down on even like a tape recorder, right? Just capturing a moment that that you discovered, like, hey, this is something I'm, putting together. This is something I'm putting together, and you just start jamming, right? But people would be like, the quality kind of sucks. I can't listen to that. I mean, the quality sucks, but the feel, the groove is there,
Yeah.
And I think it might be kind of the same thing there, yeah, with like with like film, right? With like things that may be poorly produced, but the spirit of the of the film is there. The story is there, but maybe the lighting is absolute crap, or there's just something, or there's so much going on in the background or something like that. But that's what I'm wondering if if it gets to the point sometimes where you're just like, I can't watch this.
That happened a couple times to me on some of the films I was judging. I had to force myself, because I promised I watched the whole thing, force myself to watch each one. And you just cringe through it, and you say, oh, I wish I could have helped them. But then again, you look at the fact that there may be 80 different films out there that I've got to watch, and I've got to compare two different films, and one may be stellar and the other one may have those challenges, but I'm going to give obviously the higher marks to the stellar one. So it's just a matter of skill, and it's a matter of experience.
Now, I want to ask you, everybody's kind of had their like, damn, I wish I had a do-over moment, right? And so has there been something that you worked on where you're just like, that could have been so much better?
Yes. I helped with hair and makeup once on a film, and the girl didn't like the color of her hair. She didn't feel that it matched the extensions that we were doing. And I wish that we had, but we ended up coloring her hair, and it just came across on film as like tiger striped. It just, and just the lighting of it and the color. Oh my goodness. I wish I could do that again. But other than that, no, I've been pretty solid on my films.
Nice. How about your best, work that you feel like you can point to it and be like, this is what I'm all about. This is what I'm proud of. Like my kind of like, oh, this is my baby,
Yes. It's called Pretty Big Girl. It was acted out by and written by Laura Ann Heaton Gray. And I was a producer director on it along with Tommy Wood. And it's a story about a girl that has challenges with her weight and how her self-esteem is so low, and how she meets somebody in life who loves her for her. And that whole story is just phenomenal. The cinematography was spot on. The acting was spot on. Everything was just perfect. And I'm so proud of that. It's gone out to a bunch of film festivals. We're looking for an investor to make it into a feature. Right now, it's a trailer teaser. So, yeah, I'm very proud of that one.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I would like to see that, like something like that. You said Pretty Big Girl?
It's on YouTube.
Okay, I was gonna say we keep an eye out on that for that one.
Yeah.
How about just in general? Like a film that you can point to and be like, that's what everybody who does production aspires to be or to do. Right? That you can point to and be like, that's the one. Everybody should emulate that.
Out of my films or out of any films?
Any films like ever made. I know that's a huge pool.
No, it comes to mind because, I was just watching it again the other day, is Forrest Gump. I know, but the cinematography on that is beautiful. It's phenomenal. They didn't miss a beat. And the storyline, where he's always like somewhere where, he's not supposed to be in a point in history. Even the soundtrack is phenomenal. Yeah. I love Tom Hanks as a director, producer. As an actor, I think he's somebody that I would love to be like. I would aspire to be just like him. But that's my all-time favorite film, and I've watched it 100 times.
Yeah, I love that movie. That's something that if it's on, like I'm putting it on there. Like if I'm watching Hulu live or something like that, and I'm scrolling through, I'm like, what's on right now? Oh, Forrest Gump. That's it. That's what I'm going to. But I didn't realize it was like, really top-notch, like production. Really. I don't notice those things,
Yeah, it is. It is. If you look at even like when the cinematographer's focusing on certain people and the background might be blurred for a reason, it makes sense. And it's beautiful. It's really, really good work.
I was like, please don't say some really, CGI heavy nonsense. Like I was thinking, I was like, you're going to say something with a bunch of CGI. I'm like, nope. Okay, good.
Oh, but yeah, I love doing the film work itself. I mostly prefer doing production supervisor UPM work because that's more of the structured HR work that I'm used to doing. So that's where I kind of fit in.
Yeah. What does that mean exactly? I heard you say, was it, it was like a little acronym. Was it
UPM?
Yeah.
Unit production manager. It's like, it's a SAG term. It's a term. It basically means that you're the one that is like the ringmaster.
Okay.
You're right below the line producer, and you have like a whole production staff working for you. And you kind of keep direction, tell everyone what to do, and make sure everything gets done the way it's supposed to.
Yeah. There's so many roles in film. I'm just like, I'm always lost. I'm like, but I like hearing, what the different roles are and whatnot. Like, I'm like, what the hell is a grip? I read that all the time on the, on the credits. I know what a grip is, but I was just like, that's, as a kid, I was used to look at the credits and be like, what's a grip? What's a best boy? What does that mean? Actually, I still don't know. What is a best boy?
It's kind of like a key PA. It's like your cinematographer's right-hand man.
Okay.
Yeah, so they pull focus. They go into Video Village and they'll pull focus on it, on the cameras and whatnot. But yeah, they are very big piece, integral piece of the whole thing. So
so many roles. That's what I'm saying. Like, definitely somebody in HR like yourself would, or like an HR role like yourself would really. I mean, how do you keep up with all of those people?
It's tough. It is tough. It's a matter of accountability, and it's a matter of like, just resourcing the right people to come onto the film. Because a lot of times you can get the wrong crew. What's also tough is also personality conflicts. At times we have those issues, but that's really in any kind of corporation that you work with. But it's just a lot of fun. It's just something that you get up in the morning and you're inspired to get up because you got goals, because that day you want to go out and do something great, you know? Yeah. So it's one of those. It's more like a hobby than a job.
Now, when there's opportunity, a lot of times people want to jump on it, they take it. Maybe it's not the best opportunity at sometimes, or maybe they want to sit through and work with it, right? But when it comes to like picking projects, do you really take your time and decide, okay, I want to work on this, or do you just kind of take everything that comes your way and see if you like it or not, or how does that work for you?
I've had a couple times where I've had two projects come to me at the same time, and I got an opportunity to choose which one. I love being busy, so if there's just one coming at me, I'll take it. I have turned down a couple before based on, I'd worked with one of the crew members before and we didn't see eye to eye, and I didn't want any kind of conflict, or I didn't favor their work. But more often than not, if something's going to come at me and they're going to ask for me, then I'm going to take it, because that means that they see my creativity and they want the assets I possess on that crew. So yeah.
That's cool. And especially when they're starting to seek you out, that's like the ultimate like compliment, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. How would you say, is it more times than not they start seeking you out now, or are you still the seeker?
Well, I'm still the seeker more often than not. I move a lot. So I moved from Savannah to Huntsville, Alabama, and then I moved 2 years ago to San Antonio. So each time in Texas. So each time I've got to kind of reestablish my foundation.
Yeah, for sure. But they'll come seeking, Christy. They'll come seeking, right? If you're as passionate as it seems you are, and you're as consistent as you've seemed to be, right? I think they'll come seeking, and especially you mentioned San Antonio. To me, I kind of feel like that's the new Hollywood there. I've seen so many people. I've talked to so many people already who have been on the podcast, and anytime I ask them, like, okay, where in Texas are you from? San Antonio. Like, what's going on in San Antonio right now, where it's like, such a what do you call it? I don't know. It's just, it seems like it's, again, like the new Hollywood, something's going on over there.
I think a lot of it is the cost of living, and a lot of Californians are leaving and coming out east. They've come to Texas, And a lot of the productions are actually in Austin, with San Antonio as a close second. A lot of this stuff is corporate videos, things like that, kind of keeps you busy. But I just think that, there's a lot of creatives that have come here from California, and they bring with them all of their talents as well. And then it's kind of like becoming this fluid blend of creativity, which is wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, I keep seeing it more and more, I think Georgia has always had like, it's place in film, especially for like Forrest Gump, with the big scenery and everything. But not until recently have I heard, that Texas is big in film. I mean, I think obviously, California is still the place to go for film most of the time, but I think San Antonio is really kind of coming up, maybe like a close second or third there.
Yeah, there's a lot to do here. San Antonio is beautiful. It's got the Riverwalk. It's got a beautiful city. It's kind of like sprawled out. So to drive from one end to the other, it's kind of like driving across LA. It's going to take you about an hour, especially in traffic. But no, it's a beautiful place. Texas in itself, the weather's great. It gets really hot, yes, but the weather's great. We've got the beaches. Down by Corpus Christi, we've got big cities: Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin. A lot of creatives in Austin. So it's just a lot to offer here.
Did you move to San Antonio just because the film industry, or was it just more like personal move?
It was more of a personal move. My kids, my ex lives in Austin, so it's kind of nice to have that close proximity to each other. The kids get to see both of us.
Yeah,
this works out.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good reason to move there, right? Yeah. But now, as far and I ask everybody this who does, film or comedy or music, right? So as somebody who works in, as a producer, right? Is this something for you that you feel is sustainable, that you can do it on its own? Or is it kind of like I don't think for you it's like a side job, it doesn't seem. Or is it more of a side job? Or, I mean, is it something, or is it something you really give 100% to?
I'm lucky in the sense that because I served in the military, I have my retirement pay that sustains me.
Right.
So a lot of the stuff I do is more what other people would see as a side job until they really make it. It's more kind of takes up my time, especially when I get on a set. That's going to be 12-hour days, 15-hour days. And then when I'm not on set, I'm writing. I'm writing a lot. I want to do my own scripts and I want to do my own films.
No. Now I want to talk about that then, because once it becomes your own and it's your own thoughts and ideas and whatnot, then it really becomes your baby. Like we're talking about, production, and that's one thing, but once it comes from your head, that's yours, right? And so what kind of stuff are you thinking about writing, or have you started writing?
Oh, I have. I honestly want to get into motivational speaking. A lot of the things I write about are about improving women's lives, how to move your own mountains, just inspirational thoughts that could actually change somebody's life and make them believe bigger than they've ever dreamed, bigger than they've ever dreamed before.
With, improving women's lives, you being, former military, I got to ask, how do you feel that, women in the military, how they're doing these days, right? Because it's been really bad for the last, forever. You're someone who's successful, right? Who came out of it. You did a bunch. I never heard, and this is just my ignorance, and maybe I don't know that many women who served as long as you did, but I don't typically hear women who've served as long as you did.
There aren't as many as there are men. Mm-hmm. But then again, it's no secret, and it's actually a joke that it's a man's army. Mm. it's kind of like a saying that we've got. I will say I had wonderful times, great times. Oh my gosh. I mean, times where I just was blown out of the water by the inspirational people around me. And then other times where I was faced with trials and tribulations. It was tough. There was times where I would try to be briefing my commander, but he didn't want to listen to me because I was a woman. He would look to the XO or the S3 on either side to see if they agreed with me before he would tell me to launch on my plan. There's other times where I was able to find people and change their lives. I mean, there was one girl that was going to get out of the Army at one point because she couldn't stand her boss. And I did a swap with her. I swapped for her and I gave him a lieutenant. And I came in and like kind of like broke her down and then built her back up. And she stayed. She only made lieutenant colonel. So, I mean, it's just the military is an experience that's not for everybody, but it affords you the opportunity to do a lot of things and to really live. And think for yourself, honestly. I know that sounds kind of strange, but yes, they encourage you they try to push you to think for yourself, solve conflict.
And because of some of the troubles that women have faced in the military, I just ask because, there's a certain stigma where I grew up, where, well, then again, I grew up in a poor area and, in Almani in the LA area, right? Where a lot of our girls that went to, the military, they'd be like, and this is pretty bad, but they'd be like, well, you're either coming back, pregnant, a lesbian or a hoe. I'm like, whoa. Oh, gosh. And
no,
I'm like, that's what we believed, because that's what, they would see their older siblings or their, friends or whatever, and that's how it would turn out for them. I'm like, that's just nuts, because you're going to do a job, you're not going to do anything out of the ordinary, but like, that was the expectation. I'm like, that's just crazy,
I've never heard that. No, I've never heard that. I wouldn't say that at all. I think,
right. Yeah.
Back empowered. I think they come out of that experience with a lot more, self-respect. And I've seen, it's not for everybody. So I've seen a lot of people that were chaptered out for various reasons and they're probably bitter about it. And I get that. They didn't have something to say today, but no, I think that most women that get out, once they get out and they go back home or wherever they should land, are better people for it. Yeah.
And, a lot of my friends and my brother, that went to the military, I think it did nothing but good things for their lives. My brother, especially who barely graduated high school and was not going down the right path. He joined the Army and it turned him around completely, and he's a completely different person. I've seen it set up people for success in so many ways as well. So there's a lot of good that comes out of that. So, but it's crazy though. Even, I work with after school programs, and I remember, counselors were trying to keep, military recruiters away. Like, I'm like, well, why? Give them all the options you can, or they'd be trying to talk, like there'd be a kid who's like, I'm set, I'm going to the Navy or something like that. And they try to talk him out of it, like they would have meetings where they have like an intervention where it's like, we're going to talk you out of it. I'm like, it's so crazy how it's become demonized, when it really, it's a great option for some,
Yeah. And like anything, any corporation, you're going to have good people and bad people.
Right.
In the military as well. There's going to be people that will, obviously people that try to talk them out of it, but it's because they are judgmental and they are looking at that corporation or the military, and judging it based on what they've heard or maybe experienced that was had a negative effect. But meanwhile, it's kind of like looking at airline flights, right? It's like saying, I'm afraid to fly because I'm going to crash. Millions of flights go off every day.
Right.
And they land just fine. So millions of people go through the military experience and they are just fine, if they're not even better. But then one person goes through and something horrible happens and they say, oh my gosh, the whole military is corrupt. And that's not necessarily true.
Yeah. And, you'll see that in a lot of things, like, police, for example, too.
Yeah.
I think just wherever there's any sort of power like that, they're just, people are going to really get up in arms about it. And, I understand, yes, there's some bad, and I try to explain it all the time. Like like I say, I grew up, I'm a minority. I grew up poor. Like I'm supposed to hate cops, but I don't, and like you said, it's because there's a few people that are the bad apples, right? What can we do about that? I mean, there's people out there that are horrible waiters, we don't say that every waiter is a horrible person just because, somebody decided to spit in your linguine. I mean, if that's the case, why even have restaurants? But but I go off on a tangent here. But I just want I wanted to get your thoughts on the military and everything like that. So it's been such a big part of your life, and I imagine that with your writing and everything coming up, it's going to affect a lot of that for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. I want to be able to make change, and I always have been that way. Where even when I was enlisted, I said when I become an officer, I'm going to work on changing certain things and changing, even if it's one person at a time. And that's what I did. So I don't know. I think that in itself is probably the most rewarding experience with the military. Like I said, I've had my own trials and tribulations. It's not always been roses, but more often than not, I had a good time with it. I had a good time. I got to travel a lot. I got to see a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. That's like I guess what some people even just kind of go into the military for, right?
Yep, that's true. Some people go in for the travel experiences. Other people go in for the educational benefits. A lot of them will go in for patriotism. It just really depends. It depends on the individual. All
right. So I wanted to, before we close out, just get any sort of projects that you're working on or that are out there that you really want to, promote. We got Pretty Big Girl already on YouTube, right?
Yep, it's on YouTube. You can take a look at it. I've got another one called Woke that's on YouTube as well. I've got My Brother's Keeper on christiancinema.org. And, just some other stuff. If you look at my IMDb page, you'll see all the projects that I've done.
Okay. IMDb, other than IMDb, where else can people find you?
Oh, sure. I'm working on a webpage right now, but I'm on Facebook, on all the social media platforms as Christy Crandall. I'm the redhead.
Okay. As Christy Crandall?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and tag you when the episode comes out so people can find you there.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else you want to throw out there to the podcast world?
Just believe in yourself, and work on moving your own mountains because no one's going to move them for you. Mm-hmm. And if you want to get out of where you're at right now, get out. Do something with your life. My dad had a tape measure when I was a kid, and he laid it out on the ground and he said, "This is your life." And he had it out there, and I looked at it and he said, "You're 12 right now." And I looked at the 12 mark, the 1 foot mark, and he said, "You have this much more to live. Live it well."
Ooh, powerful.
If you look at it that way, it's so inspirational because right now I'm about to be 50. But the things that I've done in my life, I'm very excited because, I really feel like I spent it well so far. Mm-hmm. I'm halfway through.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us. I learned a lot. I took my notes, right? Got my new little vocabulary and everything there. But definitely wish you lots of luck. I'm going to be looking out for Pretty Big Girl. I want to see that made into a film or a show or something. But
that's great.
But let's get it out there. I want to see it. But yeah, well, best of luck on everything. I hope you don't do too many redundant podcasts, but do enough to get your name out there.
All right. Thank you so much.
For everybody listening at home, I appreciate it. Thank you. Talk to you and good night. Subscribe to the Ignorance is Strength podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Like, follow, and share on Facebook and Instagram at Ignorance is Strength Podcast and on Twitter at The Ignorance Pod.